Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is where you're from. We are going to listen to the testimony of Zuleman, pastor. Uh, um, excuse me, people. That's Alex's wife. That's Lori's brother's wife. And she believes she was a friend of Lori's. Okay. She's going to give her testimony and we'll react to it on a different video. Okay. Thanks for being here.
To be the exhibit itself is the PowerPoint.
Yes, Your Honor.
Will that be submitted as a digital file then?
I do have a copy on digital file for submission to the court as well.
Okay.
We'd printed it off for the convenience of both the court and defense counsel to be able to view it today.
Okay. We'll just be clear then that the digital file is what will be admitted into the record, and I presume that's on a jump drive?
That is, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you.
Detective Duncan, do you recognize the message in front of you?
I do.
And do you recall what email this was associated with?
This was an email associated with kkwalker75@yahoo.com.
Was a copy of this located on Charles Vallow's device?
Yes, it was.
Could you read that for the jury?
Could it be possible to have a hard copy to look at?
If the court will allow it, I do have a hard copy available.
Yes, that's fine as long as it comports with what's being displayed on the screen.
Really? Yeah.
Sorry about that, y'all, commercial. Sorry, I apologize.
And I will indicate the record, the printout that the detective is being handed was printed directly from the PowerPoint.
Okay. With that in mind then, and obviously we can follow along with what's on the screen, I'll allow him to have that printed copy and review from that.
So the email reads as follows. Hello, Chad. I hope you are doing well. This is Charles Vallow from Arizona. We really enjoyed having you stay with us back in November when you came to the Preparing a People conference. I appreciated you taking the time to talk to me about the book I've been working on. Well, more than 6 months later, I still haven't made much progress on it, but I feel an urgency to get it done. As the managing partner of Wright Planning Group, I'm going to have the opportunity to speak at various conventions beginning in the fall. But everyone says I need to have a book available that summarizes my life and shares the principles I follow. So I will cut to the chase. I am willing to pay you well to help me get this book into shape as a ghostwriter. I really liked your autobiography and the tone you took in sharing experiences without preaching. Is there any way you could come here for a couple of days and help me get the book underway? I feel talking in person would be much more valuable than a phone call or video chat, mainly because I would like you to read through some of my journals and explain to me how the publishing industry works. It would help me know whether I truly have a book in me and whether you want to team up on it. I played minor league baseball and have had plenty of stories that my audience could relate to, along with the knowledge I've gained running my own company. So I do feel the book would contain valuable information even beyond the convention circuit. I'm out of town until Sunday, but I would gladly fly you down here early next week before the holiday and cover your expenses. You could stay at our guest room like before, or in a hotel if you prefer. I hate to take you away from your family, but I know this book is vital to my speaking success. I understand if you don't want to take part in the project, but I would definitely make it worth your time. With admiration, Charles.
And you indicate this came from an email, kkwalker75@yahoo.com.
That is correct.
Did you do any kind of investigation to try to determine who the owner of that account was?
So I authored a search warrant to Yahoo. I was able to obtain the subscriber information for this account of kkwalker75@yahoo.com. The name associated with the account was Karen Walker. The IP address or the internet provider address associated with the account came back to Katy, an area of Katy, Texas. Also, the phone number associated with the account came back to Lori Vallow. The date of birth on the account came back to a variation of Lori Vallow's date of birth.
Was there any indication that this email account was linked to Charles Vallow?
There is no indication.
In going through Charles' phone further, did you locate anything regarding whether or not Charles actually sent that email?
There's nothing to indicate that Charles sent this email to or from his device, KK Walker. However, he did forward this email to Adam, Lori's brother, as well as discuss the email with Lori through text messages.
And looking at the next page there,
Yes.
are these some of the messages that you were referring to?
Yes. Charles had discovered this email on June 29th of 2019. He then forwarded it to Adam and then confronted Lori about this email that was sent. Based on my observations of Charles's email or his accounts that were analyzed, like I said, there's no indication that this came from Charles' account, was created by Charles or sent to Chad. To the best of my knowledge, looking through Charles's information, he had no relationship with Chad Daybell at all.
And if you could, would you read the messages on those and just indicate who they are coming to and going?
Yes.
They're being sent to?
The first one is Charles to Lori. It was time-stamped June 29th, 2019 at 5:51 a.m. The UTC is a universal coordinated time, and the -7 is done to show that would be Arizona time. So at 5:51 on June 29th, 2019, it says, "Is he with whom you're having an affair? He did not stay with us in Arizona in November. Who are you lying to now? Trying to destroy another family? You're evil, period. I may take JJ back to Houston unless you have a great explanation for all of this. I will not let him be a party to your apostasy."
Petconomics savings less than 12. At Petco, better care for your pet means more safe.
Charles to Lori again at 6:04 a.m. "Just so you know, I have Tammy's, Chad's wife's, email address. I will send a copy of my email you sent to KK Walker. Tammy will know what you're up to. You better explain." Charles to Lori at 6:10. "I now have Tammy Daybell's cell number. You are up by now. You have until 10 a.m. your time to respond, or I send the emails and texts to Tammy." Charles to Lori at 12:23 p.m. "Just so you and Chad know, I am going to talk to Tammy. In person if I have to. I've already emailed and texted her. Your game is up." Charles to Lori
Go sit down.
at 5:04 p.m. Please stop spending money on the credit cards. I appreciate it. I was in looking at Charles' phone extractions, was able to determine that 2 emails were sent to Tammy Daybell, one to her personal email and also one to her work email.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm having trouble hearing counsel. If she could just move the mic a little bit closer.
I had actually muted it, so I apologize. Thank you for saying that. Looking at that next page there, are those the emails that you were referring to?
Yes, they are.
And would you read those into the record?
The email from Charles Vallow to Tammy Daybell at the tdaybell@sugarsalem.com would be her work email on June 29, 2019 at 9:16. Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and my wife, Lori. This is your work email, so I'll wait to send you the evidence that is very disturbing. You may call or email me from the address where you can receive the information. I apologize to be the one sending this, but something has to be done. I feel it's best if I shed some light on this issue. Regards, Charles Vallow, and he provides the phone number of 714-853-5005. He sends a second email.
Your work is your call, but if your teeth no longer work as hard as you do, Aspen Dental is here. Right now, get new dentures for $30 per month per arch with 60 months back.
Sorry about that, guys.
Charles at Right Planning Group email address to tammy.daybell@gmail.com on June 30th at 2019 at 10:16 a.m. The subject line in the email is your husband and my wife, and the body of the email reading are having an affair. Her name is Lori Vallow. I've got definitive proof if you care to see it. Contact me and I'll share it with you. It's devastating, I know, but the truth needs to be shown. Charles Vallow.
And from your review of the device, were you able to determine whether or not Tammy Daybell would have actually read these emails?
I did contact at least Sugar Salem School District and asked if those were read. There was no indication that they were. They said they could have been deleted, read and deleted, or just deleted, but there's no indication. They do show on Chad's part to be sent, though.
And you said Chad's part.
I'm sorry, on Charles's part. Apologies.
Were you able to determine whether or not there was any communication from Charles Vallow to Chad Daybell?
Yes, on the 29th of June, 2009, the PowerPoint actually is 209, should be 2009 at 9:32 a.m. Charles sends Chad Daybell a message at chad.daybell@gmail.com. The message reads, Chad, I'm Lori's husband, but I gathered you already knew this. She sent an email yesterday, supposedly written by me to KK Walker, inviting you to Arizona next week and to ghostwrite a book I'm supposed to be working on, or supposedly working on. It's preposterous. I happened to run across it as she left her computer at our Houston home. I am not paying anybody for anything and I'm not writing a book. Either you or Lori need to tell me what's going on, or this will be exposed for all to see. Regards, Charles Vallow. And again, leaves the number 714-853-5005. Goes on to read, and does your wife know you have several of Lori's dance videos? Explain how that is any way appropriate. She sent them to you at your request in January. Charles.
Were you able to locate any response from Chad Daybell to Charles' email?
There was no response.
Did you also locate messages from Charles to Lori?
Yes, there were many messages between Charles and Lori on the 29th arguing about this particular letter that was sent.
Do you also recall the next slide locating that message on the phone?
Yes, I do.
And could you read that message?
The message from Charles to Lori on June 30th. I believe that should be 2019 of 0842. Lori, I know you don't care how I feel, but just imagine this. How could my actions or breaking your heart result in what you've done? You accuse me of infidelity, but it's you who have been having an affair. It just keeps killing me. Maybe that's your goal. How can you live with yourself destroying our life, Mel and Brandon's? Probably Mel and Brandon too. Now add Chad Daybell family, and you've got a home run. The fact you will continue to go to the temple after all you've done shocks me. There really is something wrong with you. I really don't want to do what I have to do, but you have to be exposed for what you really are. You won't even deny it or talk to me as to your reasons. That's what's amazing to me. You could ally some of what's about to happen, but I don't think you will. Lying has become second nature to you. You have been impressive in blaming me for all that's happened. You have destroyed me. I've never been lower in my life. It's you that has done it. Please tell me why, please. I will slow or minimize what's about to happen. It's you who has caused it. We have a son to raise, but that's all we have in common. I will work with you in his best interest and will be there Monday evening. You owe me an apology for all the false accusations you've made. You know, I've been entirely faithful to you since the first day we met. I deserve an apology from you. Please respect that much.
And you indicated that message when you located it would have been sent on. Did he appear to be trying to work on his relationship with Lori?
The one in shopping support service, you have no idea where to start. Let's cut through the mess. Let's cut through the BS.
Sorry about that, y'all. Commercial. Got to get the commercial out.
So there was a lot of obviously frustration and anger that he would start with, but then he would come back to a loving, gentle side and wanting to work things out and be more reasonable, if you would.
Was Lori always responsive to his messages?
Not always. In this particular case, there was no, I didn't see any denial or acceptance of the particular email that was sent, but they would still converse with each other.
And looking at the next page there, are those also additional messages that were located?
Yes, the additional messages going into July 1st, 2019 at 10:31. Charles to Lori, I'm going to Idaho first to meet with Tammy Daybell. Lori responds to Charles a minute later. She won't see you. She is my friend. She won't listen to you. Go ahead. You are ridiculous. Are you coming to JJ for the 4th or not? Charles responded to Lori July 1st, 2019 at 10:37. Then you tell me why you used my name and fictitious email to send a BS email about a book I am having him ghostwrite for me. It's fraud and a lie. There's no reason for it other than to get him in Arizona and have an excuse for his wife. Charles to Lori, July 1st at 10:38. You did this. I had nothing to do with it, and you know it. Also, he did not stay with us in November. I will find out.
And those messages are sent on July 1st of 2019.
That is correct.
And when did you respond to the report of a shooting?
We responded to the report of the shooting on July 11th of 2019.
And just to remind the jury from yesterday, when you arrived, Charles Vallow was in fact deceased.
Yes, he was.
looking at that next page, did you also locate those messages on Charles' device?
We did, yes.
And can you read those messages?
This would be the July 11, 2019, shortly before the murder of Charles Vallow. At between 7:35 and 7:37 in the morning, Charles sent Adam Cox a message that says, "Al is here." Adam responded, "At Lori's."
Yes.
Adam then states, "Really? I wonder why he never called me back." Adam said, "They are planning something." Charles responded, "Absolutely." Adam then responds, "I was supposed to spend the night at his house last night. She probably blocked that." And then Charles responded, "What you do is up to you."
After that message, are there any other messages from Charles to anyone?
After that message, there are no other messages. There are messages sent to the phone, but nothing was read by Charles at that point.
Okay. Now I'm going to skip it to the friend.
It would mean that this person has very high spiritual standing, someone who is very righteous, and is just, I guess, above, spiritually above other people.
So during Ms. Vallow's testimony at the group at Ms. Gibbs' Hope, did you hear anything else? I thought you said something about a witness to Jesus or Jesus Christ.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So that would mean that you actually have a personal conversation, physical conversation with Jesus Christ.
And what significance did that have to you?
The Breakfast Club.
That
Tuesday,
was,
April 17th at 9 on.
Highest spiritual experience that any human being can have.
Did she say anything else at this first meeting at Ms. Gibbs' home?
She spoke that there were angels that were putting names in the computer for her to do family work in the temple for them.
At this meeting, did you believe her?
Yes.
And after the meeting, did you proceed to speak with her again?
Yes.
How did that happen?
I got her phone number, and then after that, we took a trip to St. George to go to a conference together.
So between the time you met at Melanie Gibbs' house and the time you went to, did I hear St. George?
Correct.
And is St. George in Utah?
Yes.
Okay. So between those two time periods, did you have any communication with Ms. Vallow?
What's wrong?
How'd you set up the trip to St. George?
Through text and calls.
Okay. During the text and the calls, did you begin a friendship with Ms. Vallow?
I think it was an acquaintance at the beginning, and then during the trip to St. George, we drove there and we sat next to each other, and that's when we started talking, and that's where our friendship developed.
And tell us about the conference at St. George. What was that?
It was a Preparing a People conference.
And what's a Preparing a People conference?
It's conferences where they teach you how to be better prepared for anything that may happen, like a disaster, but as well as preparing you for the second coming of Jesus Christ.
And so you went to a Preparing the People conference in St. George, Utah.
Correct.
Okay. And while you guys were in the car, you guys developed you became closer and learned a lot about each other.
Correct.
All right. At the St. George conference in Utah, did you meet anybody you already had known?
Yes. Chad DAYBELL was there.
Okay. And how had you known Chad DAYBELL?
There was another Preparing a People conference in Mesa, Arizona in July of 2018, and I had briefly met him there while I purchased a couple of his books.
Okay. So then you saw him again at the St. George Preparing a People conference.
Correct.
All right. And were you aware of whether Ms. Vallow knew Mr. DAYBELL prior to that St. George conference?
As far as I know, she did not know him until then.
Okay. So were you present when they met?
Yes.
Okay. And during that conference, how did the conference proceed for you?
I listened to a lot of the speakers. I looked at some of the table presentations, and I spoke to Chad a couple times as well.
All right. So was Ms. Vallow with you the entire time after she met Chad DAYBELL?
No, she spent a lot of time at Chad's table.
And you were able to observe them together?
Yes, they were talking with each other, and
when you say talking, how did they seem to interact based on your observations?
At first it was just regular talking, and then it was obvious that Lori was very flirtatious towards him, very giggly, and putting on the moves on him.
Did you see any interactions about his books with Ms. DAYBELL or Ms. Vallow at that point?
She said she was going to stay at his table until she was going to sell all his books for him.
And based on your observations, did she stay at his table a lot?
Yes.
Okay. How did the conference end?
It's a BOGO blast at Michael's. Fill your cart with deals on camp.
So during Ms. Vallow's testimony at the group at Ms. Gibbs' Hope, did you hear anything else? I thought you said something about a witness to Jesus or Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Reading of the light, how light I was, and then he told me that I had come, that I had other lives on this earth, and he gave me the times and who I was on the prior lives that I had lived on this earth.
Now, during that conversation of the light and dark, did he give light and dark to anyone else? Or was this conversation solely about you?
During this conversation, it was only about me.
Wow.
And did he go into detail about what he said were your prior lives?
Yes.
Okay. Did he talk about any of your prior lives in terms of how you passed away in that conversation?
He said that, I believe it was the second time, excuse me. I believe it was the second time that I had come to the earth. He said that I was, give me a moment. My thoughts just got really jumbled. He told me that I had been Lori's daughter, and during that probation, or during that time during that life, that I had been killed at a very young age, at age 14, that I had been raped, and then that my body had been dismembered by the Lamanites, and I was killed at the same time that Lori was, when she was my mother during that life.
And was Melanie Gibb there when you were told this?
No.
Okay. Had she left the lunch, or was this at Firebird? I'm sorry.
During the lunch at Firebirds, he told me what he wanted to tell me, but then during a phone call was when he gave me the details.
Okay. And that phone call followed up on the lunch after Firebirds?
Correct.
Okay. Was there anything else discussed at that lunch at Firebirds?
Not that I can remember.
Okay. When was the next time that you can remember that you had contact with Lori Vallow?
It had been a little while since I had spoken to her. I had sent her some text, and she wasn't answering me again, so I hadn't talked to her for a while, and then she invited me to meet her for lunch.
Okay. Where did you go to lunch?
At the same restaurant, Firebirds in Gilbert.
Okay. What happened at the lunch at Firebirds in Gilbert, Arizona?
During this lunch, Lori made a diagram of how different creations are created, and how many worlds there are, and how many probations one person can have, and how people are either light or dark, and she made a diagram and showed how people progress towards lightness or towards darkness.
And did she say how she knew this stuff? How did she know about light and dark? Or did she tell you at that lunch?
I don't believe that she said how she was finding this information. I guess just assumed that it was coming from Chad, since he was the one that had given me my rating, or I don't even know what to call it. It's like rating of light or dark.
Is it kind of like a scale?
Yeah, like a scale, yes.
Okay. And he had previously given you a rating on the light scale or on the dark scale?
Correct.
Okay. And then you were hearing similar things at this lunch with Lori? Correct. Who was at the lunch?
It was Lori, Vallow, Melanie, Gabe, and I.
Okay. And forgive me, did she put you on the light scale or the dark scale? I don't remember.
In the light scale.
And were there sort of levels of light or levels in dark on each scale?
Yes.
Okay. What was your level, if you remember? Were you high or low?
4.2 or something like that.
Okay.
I think that was
that a high number or a low number?
It was fairly high.
Okay. Did she tell you where she was on the scale?
Yes, I believe that she said she was a 4.3.
Okay. And so during this lunch at Firebirds, did she talk about any other ideas involving light or dark or spirits?
During this lunch, she said that Charles Vallow, her husband, had been possessed by a dark spirit or demon.
And was she able to identify for you the name of that demon or dark spirit?
Yes, I believe that she named him Garrett.
And did she talk anything about, helping Charles at all with this situation?
She expressed how different he was. He was acting different. He was more organized than he was before. That he was a completely different person. That he even looked like he was shorter than he was before. That this evil spirit had been following him for a couple of years so that he could learn everything about him, and now had possessed him.
Now, was this near the time that you would, before Christmas or after Christmas?
After Christmas.
Okay. Was it winter out or spring out?
I believe this was around February.
Of 2019 now?
2019.
Okay. And why do you think it was February of 2019?
If I remember correctly, that's what there was a receipt from that lunch, and I kept the receipt because that's where Lori had made the diagram, and I had taken it home with me, and if I'm not mistaken, that's what the date on that